All right. Welcome back to Baffled.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while, Jason. How's life been?
Busy, but it is winding down. The school year's winding down, so it's getting a little easier. But then summer's upon us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so if you are listening for the first time, my name is Jonathan. This is my co-host Jason, and this is Baffled, and we are here to help you understand your misunderstood teen.
Mm-hmm.
We recognize as both parents. I have little ones, but Jason has teenage kids.
Yep.
But also youth workers. We are around students all the time, and
Yes.
we want to acknowledge the constant conflict that both teachers, administrators, parents have when there is this fight, this conflict over rules,
Yep.
screen time, and devices, whether it is their Xbox, their PlayStation, whether it's their mobile device, their iPad, whatever it is. It seems like students today are glued to the screen.
Yes.
And one of the things before we started recording, Jason and I were praying. We recognize that all truth is God's truth.
Amen.
And what we want to do is we want to set the landscape of where we're going for the next couple of episodes. And Jason and I had the privilege last year. We read through Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation. And what we're going to do is for the next 4 to 6 or so episodes is we want to go through The Anxious Generation. It's right here, and use it as a tool to help our listeners understand this shift that happened. Jason, I know myself, I'm a millennial. I turned 40 this year. My childhood was described as playing outside. I would come home and my parents would tell me, you smell like outside. I spent so much time outside that today we go through parks and there's hardly any kids out there playing because kids are glued to their screens. And I know you had similar upbringing as well. You would go out, you would go on missions. You would...
Yeah.
There was like
Life is adventure.
Life was an adventure, and our childhood is drastically different than the childhood of today. So
It is.
we want to kind of articulate through the help of Jonathan Haidt how we got here.
Right.
Why are children raised differently than the way we were raised? And Jonathan Haidt has a section in the book called The Great Rewiring. And he explains that between 2010 and 2015, childhood was deeply rewired as teens moved their social lives into their smartphones. They no longer spend time with their friends outside. They seek to spend time with their friends in the digital world. Right. For boys, this is on their video game platforms. For girls, it is through social media. And this explains why Gen Z and now Gen Alpha teens act so differently than millennials. And we're seeing this play out in real time, even in the workplace. The Great Rewiring. He talks about how childhood went from play-based childhood to phone-based childhood.
Yeah.
And Jason, you see this very on. You were sharing before we got on this call how you can clearly see how students are deeply addicted to their phones.
Absolutely.
Just from doing presentations in schools. Can you just share a little bit of what you were sharing earlier?
Yeah. So one thing we share when we do our social media safety presentations are 1/3 of students are constantly on their phones. And so why we talk about that is because cell phone addiction is a real thing. And when they are constantly on their phones, they become addicted to their phones. So much so that, endorphins are released, but also oxytocin. They're bonding with their phones. And when you do take that phone away, when they get grounded from it or it gets taken away for whatever reason, there's like something clicks in them. They become berserk. They go crazy. It's like, I need my phone. I gotta have my phone. It's like they don't feel normal without their phone. And so that's what's happening. It's just that addiction to that phone where they have to have it. And if they don't have it, I can't function without it. I need my friends. I need that screen. And that's where it becomes a problem for sure.
Yeah. So he talks about, Jonathan Haidt talks about in the book that 2007, the iPhone came out. And the first iPhone is drastically different than the iPhone 17, where we're at now.
Yes.
The first iPhone he talks about was like a digital Swiss Army knife. Like I had a camera, I had access to the web. I can even use my flash for my camera as a flashlight. And then in 2008, the App Store came out.
Yeah.
And then in 2009, social media kind of switched because Facebook introduced the like button, and then Twitter released the retweet button.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was people wanted to do the most outlandish takes so that they can get more likes. And what he talks about in the book is that there's this dopamine hit where we now post things and then we put our phone down and we rush to get back because we want to see the likes. We're looking for the next dopamine hit. So that was 2009. And then by 2015, 62% of teenagers had a smartphone.
Yeah.
So now we have students, teenagers on social media. And what was happening in real time, and now we know this because praise God for whistleblowers who released how these apps, whether Instagram, Snapchat, Instagram, they were engineered for addiction, engineered for our attention.
Yes.
They intentionally engineered these apps for us to spend hours on it, and the stats show that most students are on a screen. So whether it's the computer, whether it's a TV, whether it's a phone, 16 hours a day on a screen, and it is severely harming the attention spans of our students.
Absolutely.
Going back to what you were saying is that the kids are tuning you out. They can't even focus for 2 seconds because they have this device. And not only are the apps socially engineered, they're talking about we're getting about 100 and something notifications a day.
Wow.
So we're talking about a ping on your phone. So this is just emails, texts, notifications from apps. Every 5 minutes, your phone is buzzing if you have it all turned on, and it's fighting for your attention. So even if the phone is in their pocket, the phone is constantly buzzing, and that buzz is generating in their mind, a loop to check what's going on. So that's one thing. He also talks about 2 big mistakes that parents made, and you see this play out in real time. So 2 big mistakes. We went from overprotecting children in the real world, like eliminating normal childhood risks, where we no longer let kids go to the park on their own. We don't let them make a store run to the store that's down the street for our house to go grab milk and eggs for us anymore. We are now overprotecting our children while we underprotect them in the virtual world. We're giving them unfettered, unrestricted access to the internet.
Right. And we think it's safer because, like, okay, they're home. They're not, like you said, they're not at, I don't have to worry about somebody snatching them at the local park or at the convenience store. But the virtual world is just as dangerous because there's predators there who are trying to lure them. So yeah, there's no safe place anymore for sure. Yeah. It's getting crazy.
So unfettered, unrestricted, to your point, like we did an episode on how Roblox was being exposed because it became literally a predator's playground. For sure. And you have that with all the internet gaming, the things that are being said. You know, you and I talked earlier in even how video games changed. Drastically. You and I video games in the past were engineered for actually social connection. Like it wasn't internet gaming. It's like, oh, if I wanted to play this 2-player game, my friend had to come over and we're playing side by side.
That's right.
So there was a level of connection there. Not only that, the video games of the past actually taught critical thinking and resilience, which are 2 skills that students lack today. So the video games of the past, let's take The Lion King, for example. You had 3 lives and you had to beat the game in those 3 lives. There was no cheat codes. There was no guides. You just had to figure it out on your own. And there was no saving. Like Like the
Yeah.
issue of a memory card didn't come till the PlayStation 1 came out. So the games were not saved. So there was no level, no pick. You kind of had to, okay, you died and you start from scratch. Like, and it's over. You start over. And
Yeah.
there was no blueprint to where you need to go, what turns you need to make, where you just got lost and you just figure it out through trial and error. And that actually built a lot of critical thinking, a lot of resilience in the process, where now video games today, they kind of have all these guys, turn here, go here. Now you go on YouTube and you could just watch somebody beat the level and then you just mimic what they just did to beat the game. And then games in the past had a clear end. Like once you beat it, you beat it. You can start over and try to beat it again in record timing. Or where now games are like open world, open concept, that there's no end, where it's taking away all the things that it kind of built in us. So let's talk about teen anxiety, where he talks about kids are anti-fragile, meaning teens are not delicate race cars. They're not fine china. They're naturally anti-fragile, meaning that they need exposure to the real world. They need to make mistakes. We need to let them fail. They need to take risks to develop self-reliance and overcome childhood fears. And this is where going to the park was necessary, and then just letting them play. This is why like the removal of recess in schools was actually also did harm to students. Kind of when they played, there was going to be conflict. They had to hash it out. They had to do all these things. Tell me from your experience doing youth development for the past 15 plus years, what have you seen? Because you've kind of seen this switch in real time, like everything that we're talking about. What have you observed from the play-based childhood to this phone-based childhood?
Yeah, no, you're definitely hitting the nail on the head, because you have and I see different parenting styles. You have the overprotective parent that, you're not getting a phone. You can't, we're going to homeschool you. And I have nothing against homeschool, don't get me wrong. We're going to homeschool you. We're going to shelter you from the world, and, and just try to protect you in that way. And even like at youth groups, when they do talks on purity or, abstinence and everything, it's like, no, we're going to opt out of that. And so there's this level of protection. It's like, I got to protect you at all costs, that when they become adults and then they go off to college, it's like, they have nothing to do. It's like declawing a cat and then sending them out in the wild. And so that's just not a good strategy. So, and then of course the other end of the spectrum is, here's a phone, have at it, have fun, do whatever you want without any monitoring or any protection. So what we got to do is find the balance in the middle where, first of all, you talk it over as far as when they should have a phone. I know there's some parents that, no, you're not getting one until you're 16, and they're like, why? All my friends have it, and they get upset about that. And there's actually countries, I think you shared this one time, Jonathan, that have banned cell phones or even certain apps until a certain age. And you may look at that as like, that's kind of overreach, that's government control, but there's a reason for that. It's because given these phones to our kids at too young of age, that's where the problems occur as far as addiction, talking to predators, all that. So I guess it's up to your discretion. The right time, right moment, you feel like this is your moment, it's your birthday, happy 13th birthday, whatever it is, give them the phone, but also make sure you're walking alongside them, you're giving them the rules, you're letting them know about the dangers of what they're getting involved with. And this is why More to Life is key, because we go into schools and we educate we come alongside you in a sense and educate not just students, but also parents on the dangers, because phones are great. They're a blessing, but there's also some dangers that they're getting involved with.
Yeah, and you and I, and the addiction is not just students; it's also filtering into adults as well.
Absolutely.
Like, again, the phones are now engineered for our addiction, because they want us to be, because the more ads they see, the more we're gonna want to spend money.
Mm-hmm.
The currency is no longer money. The currency is attention.
Right.
So everything is uniquely engineered for our attention.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
so even when you mentioned it, like where parents are giving their 5-year-old a tablet,
Mm-hmm.
the reason why they're doing so is so that the parents can have a break.
Right.
So this is when, and I saw this growing up, but I didn't have a tablet. What my parents did is go outside,
Yeah.
go play with your friend. That was the way my mom was able to clean the house and cook some food without me or my sister bothering her, or bothering is a bad word, interrupting her. We were outside playing unsupervised, getting into fights or whatever,
Oh man.
just going outside. Where now, rather than letting our kids go outside, we're handing them this tablet. And even so, it's not just that the apps are engineered for addiction. Even the TV shows are now engineered for addiction, and
Right.
because of the constant loops, the constant switching of the screens, the bright colors.
Yeah.
Where, like, for example, Little Bear and everything, the scenes were, they moved a lot slower. There was a lot more purpose, where now everything is engineered for our focus, so that we can tune out the world and be focused on what the world is feeding us. And so you mentioned parenting. So I love that he uses in the book carpenters and gardeners, where carpenters are trying to measure, control, and assemble the perfect child.
Right.
So there's this level of control. They're very meticulous. It's like OCD parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas gardeners are like, we're going to create a safe environment
Mm-hmm.
so that you may flourish.
Right.
Like, I want to create the environment. There's freedom within the boundaries.
Yeah.
So like the boundaries are clear, the expectations are clear, but we want to nurture a space where the plants can grow safely, to explore and to flourish. So then, because and those boundaries are helpful. Like, there's like 3 parenting styles. There's the I don't care, have at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then there's the dictators on the other side. And then you kind of have the parent who sees themselves as an authoritative figure,
Yeah.
recognizes that children need authority, they need structure,
Mhm.
but they also want to create a space where their child can explore and do all the things that they need so that they can grow.
Right.
So going back to this, like, kids are they're not fragile, they're anti-fragile. They need to make mistakes. They need setbacks. Like, so there's like this whole thing that happened where you and I will kind of make fun, where participation trophy culture comes in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where, sidebar, Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. The reason I say that is because a lot of people who would say that LeBron is, there are some people our age that kind of attribute LeBron, but the majority of young people attribute LeBron. They will use like, well, LeBron made it to the finals X amount of times. And I was like, okay, your participation trophy culture is coming in because now you want to reward someone for losing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than, for example, because if that was the case, it's like I'm going on a tangent.
Mhm.
Why is it that Magic Johnson was not revered as, or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was not revered as the greatest of all time? Rather, it was Michael Jordan, because he was 6-0 in the final. When he made it to there, he won. He didn't lose. If that was the case, Magic Johnson went to the NBA Finals 9 times in 11 seasons.
Mhm.
82% of the time, he was in the finals for his career, and he won 5 out of 9, winning record. LeBron, 4 out of 6. He's gone there 10 times, lost 6, won 4. That's 40%.
Mhm.
So, but going back to participation trophy, we want to reward people for merely participating.
Right.
So it's not just one thing. It's like there was just this hodgepodge of things that happened from 2015 to now. This kind of created this atmosphere where kids are now more fragile than ever, where kids cannot focus more than ever, where the last podcast episode I did, where a neuroscientist is even saying that kids are even dumber than ever, that they're scoring less on and it's because of all these things that have kind of created this atmosphere for their failure, not for their resilience, not for their flourishing.
Hmm.
So this is where more to
Yeah.
life comes in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, and I can attest to that. I mean, it does seem like, if for lack of a better term, we're dumbing them down. We're not giving them the opportunity to flourish and grow. And it's funny. We're starting our summer programming in next week, and typically we talk about our 5 basic, bullying, drugs and alcohol, relationships, peer pressure, social media safety. There's this one camp, and I pitched what we do, and he came back at me and said, "Can you come to our camp and do something on growth versus fixed mindset?" And
Mm.
this was a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but I agreed to it. So I got to work, and man, because I did learn about that in a parenting class,
Hmm.
but to talk to teens about it was really put me to the challenge. So we're going to be doing that this summer with one of the camps, and where the fix is like, this is as far as we're going to go, and I'm not going to do anything beyond that, or I can't do it, and this is not my skill. Where the growth's like, you know what, I don't know about this, but I want to try, I want to grow, I want to learn, and so this, I feel like, if you give everything to kids or students on a silver platter, they don't learn, they don't grow, they don't go beyond their potential. And so that's
Hmm.
really what we want to do with young people is, yeah, you can do this. Don't say I can't, I can. You just need to try harder, push and grow and break that wall in a sense to go to the
Yeah.
next level.
So going back to something I mentioned earlier, adults being addicted, right? Also on
Yeah,
social media,
for sure.
there's a device, and we're not sponsored, by the way, but you and I have this thing called a brick. So where
Yeah.
our phones are bricked. So in order
Yeah.
for us to be fruitful and productive in what we do, we spend a lot of time researching. Like this book, The Anxious Generation, is
Yeah.
400 plus pages. This is not a book you read casually.
Yeah.
So in order
time.
for us to be a resource to parents and to teachers, that means we need to position ourselves as thought leaders and subject matter experts, which means we can't constantly just we can't be doom scrolling all the time. So we needed to do things, because again, these apps are socially engineered for our attention. And
Right.
what we needed to do, and parents, if you're listening, one thing you can do is brick your child's phone.
Yeah.
Like disable, like it's not enough for you to put screen time hours, because you can bypass that with the pen. What you need to do is have something that kind of bars them from having access to those apps, where you kind of make your smartphone into a dumb phone intentionally. And then you can so I have it where I have it set on schedules, where it bricks on its own, where it unbricks on its own, where, so that way I can be present as a dad and a husband at home. It blocks off YouTube, it blocks off Instagram and Facebook, and it just blocks off all the time suckers so that I can be present. Another thing, parents, like you are the authority in the home. So like, if I were you, I would get a brick for my phone. I will do the hard work of learning. How can I set up my router in my home to restrict access to the internet on certain on my kid's phone? Like, how can I shut off the Wi-Fi for their devices but not for my devices? Like, how can I like, you can do that. And like, I've seen like the internet, no, it's just not for you. You need to do your homework right now, Timmy.
Yeah.
Like, we need to, the most loving thing you can do is actually remove the distraction, forcefully remove the distraction, not putting them in a situation where they're constantly going to be tempted for those things. Another thing, we want to do is, as parents, we want to work together for their flourishing. One of the things that you can do is let your child be bored. Boredom allows us to tap into our imagination, allows us to think outside of the box, allows us to come up to solutions to problems we were thinking about earlier.
Right.
One of the things I like to do now is, when I do go out on walks in my neighborhood, is I leave the phone at home. And not only do I leave the phone at home, I leave my AirPods at home. I'm trying to get into the idea of where I'm not always feeding myself something, where I just want time for my thoughts to run wild and to where I'm not being bombarded, where I can just walk and I can just people walk and people watch, and as I'm walking, and sometimes this even happens in the shower. Like I'm in the shower and then I'll get the solution to a problem that I was scratching my head on earlier, but because I didn't have all these things bombarding me, and it allowed my brain to actually think, I got the solution. So there's that. There's also things you mentioned, homeschool earlier. He also talks about in the book, he talks about 4 harms in this Great Rewiring. So like social deprivation. Kids are more isolated than ever. Kids they don't even know how to interact with each other. They're spending less time with each other in person, but they're spending more time, quote unquote, together in the digital world. He talks about teens who spend more time using social media are more likely to suffer from depression, anxiety, and other disorders, while teens who spend more time with groups of young people, such as playing team sports or participating in religious communities, have better mental health. And this is an atheist talking.
Yeah.
Like, we are wired for interpersonal, face-to-face interaction.
For sure.
He says that, in contrast, sitting alone in your bedroom, consuming a bottomless feed of other people's content, or playing endless hours of video games with a shifting cast of friends and strangers, or posting your own content and waiting for other kids or strangers to like or comment, is so far from children need that these activities should not be considered healthy new forms of adolescent interaction. They are alternatives that consume so much time that they reduce the amount of time teens spend together. Yeah. So that's harm number 1. Harm number 2 is sleep deprivation. This is where homeschooling comes in. So teenagers need more sleep. But teenagers are actually getting less sleep because we're allowing our teenagers to take their phones with them into their bedroom. So they need about 8 to 10 hours a night of sleep, but they're going to sleep later. So the reason I bring you homeschool is because private schools and public schools have early start times. So now, because they have early start times, our kids are getting less sleep. And because they're getting less sleep, that less sleep is also getting in the way of their capacity to actually stay focused. They're more irritable. They're more anxious because they're not getting a proper amount of sleep. So between high social media use and poor sleep, we're setting our kids for failure, which is why some parents are opting into homeschooling, because they want to allow their kids to get the sleep that they need for their growing bodies. So we're starting at 10 a.m. today. We're not starting at 7. We're starting at 10 because Timmy needs as much sleep as possible. So there's that. There's also attention fragmentation, where their capacity to actually focus is getting less and less through each passing generation. And then lastly is addiction, which we already hit on. So these are these 4 harms, where he basically summarizes that the harms far outweigh the benefit. Like, there are benefits for community and all that stuff, but the harms for the developing brains far outweigh it more than the pros. There's so many more harms. There's so many more harms that parents just need to know. So the reason why we exist is, 1, we want to help young people. We want to equip them to understand that their choices affect their future. And young people lack impulse control. Right. Young people don't make wise choices because they're ruled by emotion. They're ruled by peer pressure. And it's because their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed yet. So we're giving them the keys to something that's not even fully developed yet. So not only do we want to equip young people, we also exist to equip parents. This is why we do parent presentations. This is why we want to be in the community, and our services are free of charge, because we want to help parents set their kids up for success. One teacher said it this way. There's a lot of conversation about that the problem is between the haves and the have-nots. But he says, one teacher was saying, our future is the class problem is not going to be between the haves and have-not. The class problem is going to be between those who can think critically and those who can't. Those who are literally just going to think like everybody else, and those who can actually think critically and actually become problem solvers in society.
Right.
Those are going to be the ones who are going to dominate the world because they have something to offer where kids, we see this all the time with rest in peace, Charlie Kirk, where you can see people short circuiting because they don't know, they're just regurgitating what they have been taught, lack of better words, or fed.
Okay.
They don't know how to think through the problems. So we want to equip and empower both students and parents. You mentioned the growth mindset.
Yes.
Like between having a fixed mindset to a growth mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason, anything else to add, like, as we go through, because we're gonna go through a deep dive into how we got here and how we can, rather than diagnosing the problem, we want to offer solutions on how we can rescue this generation, how we can actually set our kids to success, to actually be better than what we are.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with everything you're saying. It's we are in a new era, a new phase, and a new world, if you will. And so it's like we have to, as parents, you know, like you said, your kids are young, but mine are much older. I got teenagers, and so we got to navigate through this world, and you know, because we're so stuck in the past, you know, I remember my childhood, I remember my teenage years, and sometimes it's hard to relate what they're going through because of this new technological world. So yeah, we need all the tools we can in order to navigate, but also help our young people make the right choices for their life. That's why More to Life is here. That's why we're here. We want to help you guys through this podcast. We offer free presentations. We can come to your school, your parent group. We can do something virtual through Zoom or whatever platform, but we want to help. We want to walk alongside you because things are constantly changing. And even when you think you have it down to a science, it changes again, and it's constantly morphing and changing. But of course, the common threads are there. So we want to help you guys as much as possible. So please reach out to us. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, today's choices affect tomorrow's future. So one of the things, if I want to encourage parents today, is give your kids more freedom in the physical world and more boundaries in the digital world.
Yes. Change it up.
You know, so again, this is Baffled. We're here because we want to help you understand your misunderstood teen. So please follow us wherever you're listening, whether it's Spotify or Apple. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video for the algorithm. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and get this out to those who kind of need to hear it. Put this, if you're a parent, share this with your friend group. Share this in the community Facebook group. Share this to the moms group. If you're a church, youth pastor, invite us out. We want to be a resource to help you.
It's it.
So my name is Jonathan.
I'm Jason.
We'll see you next time.
Peace.